Oromocto Council. The agenda, Oromocto Council Committee meeting Tuesday, the 23rd of June, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. Oromocto Municipal Building. I'll call for a mover for approval of the agenda. Councillor Kirkbride, seconder. Councillor Mawhinney. Questions? All in favor? Contrary, motion carried. I almost called you Deputy Mayor and I had to wait for a second. Okay. We've got a presentation by the RCMP for the fourth quarter and you are up. The floor is yours.
And everybody, Corporal Jeffrey, for those who don't know, I'm the news here in Oromocto. Sergeant Escalier asked me to come in and present on his behalf. Excuse me, has to get prior minutes. So we got the quarterly report for, this is for January of this year to March of this year. So first page we have released the prior week. You guys have top.
Yep.
On there. So through the main priorities that we were looking at tackling were check stops for impaired driving, administrative vehicle related offenses, community activities that could be anything from when I was talking to kids, doing bike rodeos, school presentations, that sort of thing, and then park patrol, of course. Same as it was last year, getting out into the parks and their trips. Nefarious activity happening there. One of the nice additions that we have to park patrols this year is the addition of a drone that we have. So can actually, I can launch it from literally anywhere in town and fly with the park, so I can see them before they can see me. Great. We had so far 740 occurrences this year. But before you can see the list of offenses that we have here. So the Controlled Drugs and Substance Act, criminal code draft related criminal code offenses, other federal statutes, crimes against persons, provincial statutes, property crimes, non-criminal traffic offenses, and then non-criminal code occurrences. So we're pretty much on par with where we were last year. We're a little bit above on the non-criminal code occurrences for this coming year. And that could be anything from property disputes, mental health, things like that. So we're on pace for another busy year. And this is for the town, for not the district that we police. So we look at page 5, we've got non-criminal code and criminal code. So 76% of our occurrences have been non-criminal nature, 24% have been criminal nature. A lot of property crime happening, and that is anything from break and enters to thefts, to theft of vehicles, to mischiefs, anything involving property where there's no violence against anybody. Crimes against persons, that sounds violent crime, 48 occurrences. Other criminal code 25, traffic offenses 16. So go through this list of our top 5 criminal occurrences. Other violations involving threats or violence, that could be uttering threats, assaults with weapons, sexual violence, any involving any person of any age group, that all falls in there. Thefts under $5,000, and then other criminal code. Again, that's just everything that doesn't fall into one of these subcategories. Mischief, which would be damaging property or obstructing the enjoyment of somebody's property, and then assaults, we have 17. Non-criminal code offenses, we've had 240. A lot of the traffic related. Of course, we do have highway 2 that runs right through town here, so we get a lot of occurrences on the highway. Provincial statutes, so any liquor acts or anything that's non-criminal, it's governed by the province. And then other federal statutes, which would be your Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, Excise Act, anything that's outside the criminal federal statutes. Our non-criminal subtypes are top 5 are again traffic violations. A lot of those again, number 2. Non-criminal code occurrences, 153 assistance files. We get a lot of assistance requests from Faircon Police or from other police agencies, serve documents, arrest people, things of that nature. Provincial statutes, again, that's traffic tickets that have been issued, anything that deals with provincial legislation. And then traffic collisions, we had 49. Taking a look on page number 6 here, this is where all the tickets were written. Anyone tell where to avoid? Of course, this changes by the month, so. Yeah, lots of tickets issued for lots of different things, but we have the construction zones on the highways, another good spot that we keep an eye on. I think, I wanna say that's.
Rest.
Rest Road, yeah. Yeah,
Wow, that's a lot.
it's a half the spot. Sorry. Good work.
Thank you. So reason, February substantive there, 91 tickets for that particular, what's it split on for like targeting something in particular, it's quite an anomaly compared to the
Yeah.
teams on either side of it.
So we have a tactical traffic enforcement unit, the residential unit, so sometimes, various times during the year, they'll come down and do. They were, as you said, yeah, they come down and they do a great job.
Understood.
They're very involved, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, they just did another one not long ago in this area too, it was very, very productive. So for collisions. January, February, we had 1 injury collision versus 15 non-injury. February, we had 1 injury collision, 7 non-injury, and March we had 3 and 6, so. Winter driving, and thankfully, not very many injury fatal collisions, happy to see that. And then of course, March, we usually see that with people pay a lot more attention, generally speaking, in the winter time, the weather's not so great, the roads aren't great. And when the nice weather comes, spring thaw, oh, it's great, and then. Not so great when you run into something. So page 8, we have our OCC, our Operational Communication Center. And these are the people that field all the calls for the whole entire province. And depending on where the call comes from, then it gets filtered down to whichever detachment it has to go to. These stats reflect what comes into us. So emergency calls versus non-emergency, we had 82 non-emergency and 18 emergency. The distribution of those calls were abandoned, emergency, and non-emergency, so. The abandoned calls looks like they're quite low so far this year, which is good. The emergency calls were right on par, non-emergency again, we're right on par with how we were last year. Average conversation time went up a little bit from 1:34 to 2:32. February 1:40 to 2:31, and March 1:30 to 2:40, which is kind of a good thing because that gives us more information, more intelligence. Better.
Councilman,
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So when it talks of abandoned calls, that means people tried to call, but then they hung up and instead of letting the call go through.
That could be, or something we're seeing a lot of too is what we call a static 911. That happens a lot of times with buildings that have been decommissioned and there's something wrong with the electricity, or we're seeing it as well with all the copper wire stuff that's been happening around the district. Sometimes what'll happen is when the copper was cut, it then generates a 911 call. So it goes as being an abandoned call because there's nobody there to talk to. So, and with all the copper theft going around, it stands to reason why the number's so high.
Yeah, and as a follow-up, that was actually one of the questions I came with tonight. Last night, there was a home in Oromocto West in which 3 young people got out of a white vehicle, ran up to a residence, kicked the front door. It didn't kick it in, but broke the screen and all that kind of stuff. And the homeowner was, of course, upset, and she deemed it not as an emergency, so didn't call 911. But when she called the non-emergency number, no one ever answered. So she was kind of, I think that was one of her greatest concerns about the whole thing. It's just that there was no one there to validate the concern that she had.
Right.
And so I told her I would bring that up and pass that on as a concern. And I'm wondering, like, everybody understands volume. Like sometimes it's just like when you call, the operator's already busy or whatever it is. But is the system not designed to then bump it to someone else, or like in this center, I'm assuming there's more than one operator. So is the likelihood that every single one of them was busy at the same time?
Very likely.
It could be, okay. So what is the backup to that?
So we've got our one communication center for the entire province, and they're all located in our headquarters building in Fredericton. They do every RTP community in the entire province, so it depends on how many people they have working. And we also have a risk managers and police officer in the building as well. They deal mainly with the most serious of the serious. Why their call went unanswered, I can't say, I don't know. Generally speaking, they are answered in order that they're received. 911 calls take priority. As a matter of fact, we could even be doing something on the radio with the dispatcher and they'll say, I have to drop for 911, and they cut us off and they go and answer the 911 call, as it should be. So I did see a post about that incident on Facebook. I was working last night and I wish I'd known about it because we were in Oromocto West. I actually had the drone up in the neighborhood for another incident, and it would have been nice to know because again, we were right there. So.
Yeah, so I guess for me, like, I understand that, so from what I'm hearing from you is that it generally, when someone calls that number, they are answered.
Yes.
So I guess what I'm really asking is, if someone calls and operators are busy, should there not be some sort of system where they say, please hold on the line for the next available agent or something like that? Because then they would feel as though that their concern is validated and that they're coming.
Right.
She said it just rang and rang and rang and rang, and she said after about 10 or 15 rings, she said, I just hung up.
Now, I'm wondering which number she called, if it was the number for the front counter here at the detachment, or if it was our non-emergency line, because the non-emergency line goes to the dispatch center in Fredericton. Whereas if she called the detached here, we wouldn't have had anybody here.
I cannot say that for 100% certainty. The only thing she said to me is I called a non-emergency number. So I was presuming it's the appropriate one, but I would have to confirm that for 100% certainty.
So that'd be good for us to know too, because we have calls that are just not going answered. That's the concern.
So I guess I'm probably not gonna have a definitive answer right now, that's okay. I'm just asking you to relay that in situations in which perhaps too many non-emergency calls are coming in for the operators to be able to handle, which is, understandable, resources, that if there was some way of telling the person who's calling to please stay on the line, and that they would be kind of like when you call almost anywhere, please stay online for the next available agent.
Right.
And then people say, okay, I'll just wait until they come on the line. Yeah, that would be appreciated if that could be relayed as a concern.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilor Kirkbride?
I think the non-emergency line does say that. The reason I say that, because when there was a group of four-wheelers going by our house, two of them no helmets on, I called and I was placed on hold for 6 minutes and 58 seconds, and still nobody answered, and I had to go somewhere, so I hung up as well. So that's two instances that nobody answered, but I'm sure when I called, because I was on hold, like I was on there for a lot more than 10 to 15 rings. And then I'm sure it does say, please wait. I just couldn't wait any longer. 7 minutes is long enough. So I abandoned the call.
Is that a non-emergency line monitored 24/7?
Yes.
Cause last year had to call it and it just got paid. I spent the whole day on Sunday trying to call it. Someone tried to steal my motorcycle and I never got through to him.
Other than these two incidences that you guys are talking about, I've never heard of just ringing and going nowhere. So that's puzzling to me. I don't know why that would be happening. But certainly worthy of investigation. So I'll bring it up with Stefan. We'll talk to our people at the OCC and figure out why that's happening.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm just wondering that at this time of year, because it tends to be in the fair weather months is when these kinds of things like down pictures and these kinds of things happen more often. And what I've always thought is that, sometimes it's not the solution, it's the validation of the concern, right? And so if we could even make either the town or the RCMP or both just a reminder of this is the number that you call if you ever have a concern, I think would also be helpful because, sometimes people don't always have that at their disposal.
Right, it would be released. This is the emergency number, obviously, it's an emergency, call 911.
Yeah.
For non-emergency, this is the number you call for each dispatch. That's a very easy solution to be explored. Yeah. Okay, so getting into the wait times, which we just touched on. Average wait times last year were about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Kind of across the board, and so far we're doing about a minute 6 seconds, minute 20 and minute 16, so. That also comes with personnel, more people to answer their phones. Less time wait, so. Having worked in call centers myself in my young life, and you know that. There's a lot of calls in the queue waiting to be answered, more people there to answer those calls make it go a lot quicker. So. I think they're doing pretty good over there right now. Hopefully, they can keep their staffing numbers up. Look to page 9, that's just a glossary of terms. And then some of the language that we use from the non-criminal code. If anyone has any questions regarding those, certainly fire away up here all night. Call types of emergency calls. Any 911 call, no matter what it is an emergency for us, so we always respond. Non-emergency would be, something along the lines of a suspicious person or someone being gone ditched and quad scenario. Those would be non-emergency calls. Van call, again, touching on that, is sometimes people call 911 and then hang up. Or it's a malfunction with phone lines that happens quite often, especially in bad weather. We get a storm rolling through it knocks all the alarm systems, and all of a sudden we have 900 911 calls that don't need to be made. So. Questions?
Councilor Kirkbride?
Thank you, Worship. Do you happen to have any information or any numbers, or if there have been any traffic stops in regards to the four-wheelers, motorcycles, that people are running illegally on our streets?
I can say we try to stop quad four-wheelers here under Alberta, so quad is what I like. Dirt bikes, four-wheelers, quads, side-by-sides, you name it, off-road vehicles, and very rarely will they actually stop for us. So the attempts are being made. Unfortunately, if they don't stop, we will not pursue them. That all comes out of safety, not only for us, but for the unsuspecting public, and of course for the person driving the quad. We don't want to get hurt. So it's not that we're not trying, it's just getting them to actually stop is very, very challenging.
So cruising over street, Garter Street.
Sometimes that's where the deployment of the drone, that asset really comes in handy, because if one of my members says, oh, I got a quad that took off on me going this way, I'm in the area, the drone up. Yep, there it is. Then we can follow it from the sky. They have no idea that it's there, and come in potentially and either make an arrest or either traffic stop by it's safe to do so. So I haven't had much luck with it yet, but it's still very early in the program, so.
Councilor Mawini?
Thank you, Worship. Your top.
Sure.
The other issue I dealt with today was an issue kind of similar to what my colleague just expressed, but it was like dirt bikes and that kind of thing. This one was 2 a.m. last night, ripping down Fenimore, waking people up, all that kind of thing. And I think that, in situations like that, an average resident just doesn't know what to do. Like, these are the things that are happening. I think most people understand that the police are not gonna go hot pursuit on that through the residential neighborhood. I think most people understand that, but I'm wondering if some sort of communication or correspondence could go out in terms of the most important thing in situations like this is to determine where these things are coming from. And so I do believe that kind of communication would be valuable for residents. So if a resident knew that certain dirt bike that lives 3 houses down was going every single day, then there's a way for those people to be able to report that. And so I would like to see some sort of correspondence either from the RCMP, from the town, or in collaboration, something like that could go out. But I do have a question about that. If someone does report that I know that this dirt bike lives at this address, do they have to provide their details in terms of so when they call to report, do they have to say, hello, my name is, or will you still take their information if someone says, I'm not comfortable providing my information?
Three ways we can do it. Number one is, yes, we take their name, phone number, address, big statement, full 9 yards. That makes them a witness. They may be compelled to court.
Yeah.
The other option would be they want to stay anonymous, fine. The third and probably the safest and best option for people who don't want to be involved is to call Crime Stoppers.
Okay. That's really good information because one of the things that, or one of the misnomers I think that exists out there is that people cannot report unless they provide their information.
That's right. So
So that's a going true.
going back to, we all remember those Crime Stopper commercials from back in the, the 90s. Maybe some of us, I don't know. I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I still remember his phone number, 300 tips.
yeah, exactly.
28477. Now we do it online. It's P3 tips. And so those are the three options there. You can report online anonymously. That information then comes to us, and I've used Crime Stopper tips to write search warrants, to arrest criminals, to recover stolen property. Like, they are invaluable. They stand up in court. And it's just like the ad says, they want information on the name.
And to me, that is what we should be pushing more and more as a community. Because then you get those people, because there are those unique individuals who say, I don't care, I'll provide my name, I'll provide whatever, and I will go with the links.
Yeah.
But that is the person who is not concerned about repercussions.
Right.
Whereas I would say the majority of people are actually people who are concerned about the ramification of their reporting. So if you actually, if residents actually know that if they report through that mechanism, that it gets to you folks, and that you can actually act upon that information, I think that's really important for us to be pushing out to our residents.
Most important thing with Crime Stoppers though is it's not an emergency line, so. If it is something that's urgent, an emergency that needs attention right now, that's a 911 phone, and that has to come to us quickly because it could take days or potentially weeks for the Crime Stopper tip to get filtered down and get to us. So the important message there is if this is an emergency, like we hear, hang up, dial 911.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, council? No? Okay, great.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the report. Appreciate
Take
it.
care, everybody.
And I hope that drone works. All right, now we'll move down to the monthly reports, and we'll start with the staff report of planning and compliance. Any questions, concerns, council? None? Okay. We'll go to the Department of Finance. Questions or concerns? I know we're losing our finance man tomorrow, so. All right, it's done. Okay, we will go to, I think it would be the fire station. Yes, it's or about the fire department. Jody is here. If anyone has any questions or concerns. None? All right. We'll go to staff report to the CEO of the Department of Engineering and Public Works. Questions or concerns? Councilor Mooney.
Thank you, Worship. Not a, it's not a question. I have had many residents ask me when the project here is going to start for, construction of that project. Do we have any updates in terms of when there could be, because I saw them put up those little flags about 3 weeks, a month ago. And we're expecting things to happen immediately, and of course it hasn't. So do we know if they're starting in July, August, or do we have any update?
Your worship, I don't know exactly yet, got specific time, but what I can say is they're trying to coordinate it. We have another project for repaving of Route 102 down in Burke, which we're trying to coordinate a force main. And of course, as most people know here, when they do paving, they like to come and try to do all of it at once. So they're kind of delaying ripping up the street because they can rip it up tomorrow, but if it doesn't get paved for 2 months, then we know we'll have complaints on the other end. So, but we do expect probably, either, from what I'm being told now, late July, early August, just to time it so you don't, your disruption period becomes as tight as we can make it.
Thank you.
Councilor Murdoch, did you have a? No, question. Councilor Von Victor?
No, I was just pointed in.
Thanks for the help. Okay. Nothing else for them? Okay, we'll move on to the Department of Recreation and Tourism. Jackie's here. Good time to talk. None? All right. We'll move on to the Department of Human Resources. Any questions or concerns? We'll move on to the clerk's office. Questions? We'll move to the Department of Corporate Services. None? Okay. We'll move down to administration. And we'll go to 5B, then basketball net and coordination park, and Jack is there at the podium over.
Thank you, your worship. Before you, council, you have a request for decision that I presented based on a request from time deputy mayor Wayne, who was approached from a resident in his ward to request a basketball court at the Coronation Park area. Just a little background. The way that the current rec master plan and the park strategy plan that Mr. Garrett would have done with you prior to my taking over this role. It's deemed that that is a size park that would not have basketball courts in it at the time. Now, that being said, the rec master plan that's been completed last year does indicate that that might be a size project down the road. However, as requested by the deputy mayor Winnie, I did do some further research in regards to the cost of that to bring to council for consideration of the request on his and the residents' behalf. I won't go through all of the discussions benefits there, but I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the discussions and backgrounds. And have just presented the cost of it, which is approximately $2,800 plus another $500 for the installation. It is done budgeted amount, so if council would like to move forward with this, we would have to look for an offset. Again, I'll present two options. One is that we would request approve the request for the basketball installation. I think it's just the one net. And then the second option would be to decline it. From our end, staff would recommend that we would not install, just to follow through with our plans through the park plan. However, whatever council decides, staff will definitely get and into implementation.
Councilor Murdoch?
Okay, so I know that obviously it was removed due to probably age and stuff. Was there any other reason it was removed?
My understanding is it's removed a while ago. I want to say that there is a security light that was installed down there.
Right.
And there's kids that would do basketball, and in that area, noise travels quite a bit. Very similar to by anniversary getting to Grizzly, that's very right. That there's we used to get complaints about the skateboarders. Because we hear that clapping.
Is the security light still there?
It's as far as I know.
So the security light gave an opportunity for maybe kids to leave it later at nighttime because of the
Right.
Councilor Moore?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I just explained, this came from a resident who lives on Finnemore. Has an 8-year-old who likes to go to play with his friends. This would have anniversary park to allow an 8-year-old to go that far. Is a fair distance subsequent to the removal of that, if my, and I could be corrected, but I believe my memory is correct, that at that time, the one net that was in that area was getting older, it was due to be replaced, and because of the concerns at the time, it just wasn't replaced. But part of the concern is it wasn't so much that there was a basketball net there, it was the fact that because there was a light there that stayed on 24/7, that kids were staying until late hours, as opposed to a lot of the lights that exist around communities where you can have activation where it goes off at a certain time, including a lot of those types of activities. So that was kind of the cause of that happened there. And so I told him, I said I would bring this forward. He said he would greatly appreciate it. He said there's been a lot of turnover in the community from a lot of older people who used to live in the area, but now it's a lot of younger families. And he said they just don't have anywhere to play. So, and subsequent to that, a lot of the streets, back when that net was removed, the last street in Oromocto West wasn't even there, which is Burnett Street, and it's now completely full of houses with younger families. So to me, the idea of having, you want young kids to be able to go out and walk around the community, but you don't want them to walk a kilometer or more up to the park to be able to go play basketball. So to me, this was a very low cost request compared to some of the costs of things that we sometimes will allow that are unbudgeted. So to me, to be able to provide kids a basketball net to play with, I think was that reasonable considering that the pad is already there. It's just the installation of the net. Thank you.
Councilor Carter.
Yeah, I guess, thank you, Councilor Brody just hit on it, as I said, we have a pad existing. I'm certainly putting this on the pictures, I mean. Yeah, I can understand, definitely understand concerns, but asphalt's not cheap if we ever were to remove it or kind of say about to set it, unless it's there waste. Seems like more of a shame than putting it in, and if maybe the same concerns happen, the light situation changes a fairly cheap change, but also against the park, so. Yeah, I think I would support it.
Councilor Murdoch.
And I know the idea of parks all coming to one area and stuff is a good plan, and I think it's something that has to be encouraged and involved, but. You know, to the point that there's some distance between the main park that we're putting time and money into and some of the houses that are on the farm. And because we have these green spaces, I certainly don't want to take money from things that we're gonna plan to do in a big picture, but green space, availability of it, I think it's not a big expense to kind of fill in the gap. And I have also heard that although they love the anniversary park, and it is definitely something that they utilize, but it's something they utilize as a family to go. But when you have 6, 7, 8-year-olds that just want to go and do stuff, and it, you know, when more so maybe not the oldest generation, but when, you know, to go to the street and play in the street was a thing. It's not so much anymore, and it's a different generation. And I think to take green space we already have, I'm not at all saying we gotta invest a whole bunch of time and money into it, but something like this seems pretty inexpensive to sort of put there. But I do think maybe the light issue seems to be, if we can maybe have a light that turns off so that, you know what the problem is, we get the 8-year-olds that will play with it and love it, and that's what we're doing it for. Then we got the 6 and 17-year-olds that are midnight, playing at midnight, they're out there, and they're the ones that people complain about. Well, maybe, I don't know if it's an easy solution, but maybe having the light, you mentioned something about turning off at a certain time to not attract that. I mean, we're not gonna, you know, we still have issues with the anniversary park, the older youth. You know, if we can solve that problem, we're gonna be a million years, but at the same time, I think this is a small solution. If we can cater maybe around that lake, maybe do little things that provides a little bit, because I think that Councilman was right, that road, you know, between the, like I just had 2 families in Burnett and Doherty, we just moved in that have kids of that age that may not be wanting to go to Innovation Park without their parents. And yeah, it'd be nice to maybe take some of it. I think the same thing with Craig Street, you know, like top back here. These are hours, we don't have to put a lot of time in it, but to put the odd thing here and there, I think it's something we should be conscious of without taking away from the big picture. You know, to take that space and maybe do a little bit of something here and there when money allows. Because I think it's a nice way to fill in the blanks.
Councilor Kirkbride.
Thank you, worship, play devil's advocate. a little bit. One, I actually love Coronation. I grew up playing ball in that park. My best friend lived on Coronation Court. We played ball down there all the time. Yeah, but that being all said, generations have changed and I love the idea. And I don't know the whole solution because with the light, if there is no light down there, we're gonna have teenagers down there in the dark. Doing other things.
Yeah.
And that could be create another issue. I love the idea of basketball. I didn't know there was no basketball not there anymore. That actually surprises me. Because it's a great park. I mean, I was before the days of anniversary for that course. And so I'm just playing devil's advocate to think about if the light does go out. Now we've got a park, but maybe there's a way to include our park security to make a drive down there at nights as well. Or something along those lines. So it's not like the university, you can't gate it. Right? So is there a way we could include perhaps our security person to go down there if the solution is we decide the light has to go out? Just to make sure everybody is safe in the area, is secure kind of thing, could we not include our park patrol to go down there or whatever, I don't know. So, I mean, I want the basketball, I do. But I also don't want to create another set of issues for darkness for residents in that area. So that's the only thing.
Councillor Carr?
Yeah, I think your modern lights can be much more directional than some of the old dusted ons that kind of glowed everywhere, and perhaps posts can be moved up right beside the court so that late night use of the court isn't encouraged. But the light maybe on the other side of the park still casts enough light that you can see bodies moving around, but it's not a great spot to play ball, so you still get a little bit of A and a little bit of B. You might be able to play till 8 till it gets to the point where the light's not there. But if a police drive by, you'll be able to see silhouettes in there. If there was some of that, just ideas anyway. I don't know that. I'm sure you've got that under wraps. You do this for a living, right?
Just wait for my turn.
I'm done.
Just if I could respond to some of the comments from council. Our staff recommendation is not in reference to the lights and the noise. That was just the reason why it was approved in the first place. Our reservation is a few different things. One is, we created the park plan and going to the neighborhood focus and then having the medium size and the small one, is so that we wouldn't have these one-ups everywhere. It does create, while I understand, we think like it's $3,500, not a big deal. But we do have the O&M that continues on it. What then it creates is that potential landslide where I have had other residents call who want to place certain parks, and I've said no because I refer them to our park plan. And as well, I know some of the stuff we talked about, the houses are now built up around there. Our rec master plan was only done last year. Those homes were there, and they have made those recommendations for coordination down the road of our 10-year plan. It is in the 10-year plan that I was working on. And I think that's later on, and we could actually potentially look at putting 2 in there, that kind of thing, if there was a bigger increase of housing in that area. Another item would be our AT trail plan, while it's not completed yet, is focusing on creating safer routes for people to get through the paths to our playgrounds. And some of that would create paths that would have buffers, so it's not like by the road, so that parents and children would feel safer going to these spaces. And I understand that it might be tricky for an 8-year-old to go that distance, but there is opportunity at coordination, just as not a basketball court. There is items there that fit within our medium size playground. I will kind of talk a little bit about park security. The new plan that we're hoping to have done at Anniversary Park is crime prevention design, so that we're hoping that we create better sight lines so that eventually we get into park security at University if it's designed properly and it works well. We could have an influx, as I'm sure you know, from Dallas, homes and houses there that will help with the crime and vandalism that is at University Park. There'll be a lot more eyes on there, and that is where the design will kind of fit everything in with that. So we can say that, but if we put that in there, we might not have park security in 2 years, 3 years time. And again, I will address the same thing that, again, is the light is on there because we were having issues in the park, there's vandalism in that area. But again, my role is to provide with all the information I can, which I've done, and ultimately it's council's decision on what you'd like to do with this.
Well, council, it's time to vote. How many are for? Oh,
Sorry.
that's
May I ask
right.
questions?
Sure.
First, your worship. Your worship. If you vote favor of it and it doesn't work out due to activities or people not following, like, assume we have a sign hard enough to vacate it for times. If people don't follow those rules, can we take them back down? Back to the trial, run, so to speak, that's just something else to throw in.
Yeah, I'd say your worship, I mean, there's always the opportunity to remove it. But if we're asking about removing it before we even put it up, then that begs the question to even putting it up, right? And look, staff's here to ask the question of council because we can do anything. Just be mindful that, you know, it all comes with a cost. So now we've gone from a basketball net installation to increasing our patrols, to changing lights. Can do it all, folks. I can do it all. It just costs money. So that's the question that has to be considered in terms of the pros and cons. I totally agree. We want to try to support activity and youth activity in the community. No question. But we also have a fiduciary responsibility with all of these asks that come of us. So hence why it's in front of you all now. And we can perfectly accept the decision as long as everybody feels that they've had enough opportunity to make that decision.
Jackie, how many complaints or concerns were there
In regards to
through the basketball?
having the noise complaints.
No, just having the basketball set back.
Having the new installed.
Yeah,
I think it's, Councilor Rooney, if there's just the one individual who's approached you about the basketball net there.
This time, yes.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, but this is not the first time this has come up. From this, it was this particular time, it was one individual, they did not come on behalf of the whole community, they said they are often playing with a bunch of children. He as an adult takes his son up to other parks on occasion, but there's a bunch, he said, one of the things he articulated to me is that there's been a huge turnover in the community. It used to be those areas were a lot of older people, but they have now moved on, and it has been infilled by a bunch of young families. And the families who are going to the park looking to play, and it would be such an added service, since there was a pad already there and a place to put a net. He said he felt it was a reasonable request to play at the park. And I said, I agree with you, I will take it forward. And of course, it ultimately will become such a situation. But prior to that, I have had other people over the years ask me why the net was removed. And asked if we could get one back. I think it's just now coming to the time of the formal aspect.
I feel like it's probably too much detail to ask, but maybe not. Here we go. So as I'm reading through, it's on the list, it's just halfway down the list from saying the 10-year, it's in the middle somewhere, it's a medium priority, it's near the end, maybe. Would the intention be in that medium space that it would eventually reestablish a basketball court, but in, let's say, 8 years? Or is that vision for that part not include that? I'm just thinking because in 10 years, will that pad still be in the same state? Do we get 7? No, because I understand, we do have a plan, we spent good money on this plan. The rest of it, they turn around and go against the plan does,
The recommendation would be for resurfacing, with the understanding that in that time frame, we would most likely have more residents in that area. That would, require.
For like green space,
No, that we would resurface
houses.
exactly. No, but just around in Oromocto West in general.
Oh.
Anyway.
Okay, let's get back to, it's time to vote. We'll start with, we'll go up to, come around the bend, so,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I think it's the smallest things that we can do for now.
Well, that's 7 yeses. Thanks, Jackie. All right. Next is the Canada Revenue Agency, the town of Oromocto to update the list of directors, and Peter Wong has this.
Your worship, councilors, so my first motion tonight is for a CRA update of the list of directors, over the years, we've the councilors, years, and staff. So this is a cleanup run to make sure all the right people are on the CRA contact and list and administration list. So that's the first asking.
Morgan fun.
It's fuzzy here, so, okay.
Yep, I have a question.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's an official document, my name is spelled wrong, it's a small V.
Yes, it is. Perfect.
Actually, sorry.
Oh, Councilor,
Mine is two.
yours is too?
Mike's spelled right. Just saying, because it's
Brad.
We'll get those, we'll go to get them all corrected. Yes. And that's warm and fuzzy there. Other than that, it's warm and fuzzy. Good to go. Okay.
No, I changed my name. So that's I'm also next on this.
Yes, you're gonna do 5D, the Indigenous Services Canada.
Yeah, so, yeah, annually, we have an update on our emissions services contract for road maintenance and for robotics for that's rate services. So we just received the contract for this year. And so just asking for approval here for services that contract.
And the contract usually stays pretty steady anyway.
It's a steady contract.
Yeah.
Changes as of the sort of rates that have like as credit ratings.
Yeah, so that's pretty cut and dry, council. Warm and fuzzy, perfect. Thanks, Pete. We go to 5E, the summer meeting schedule with that'll be a verbal discussion. Yep. With the CEO.
Sure.
Okay, who started off?
Sure, yeah, so essentially, this is the one that we usually have annually where we discuss summer meetings. In the past, we've gone to just scheduling one CIC meeting through the summer. The other thing we've done here more recently is switch that meeting to a Monday instead of a Tuesday. And so I think just trying to get consensus from the group that they're good with change to the schedule in terms of the number of CICs for July and August, and B, that they don't mind it being a Monday versus a Tuesday for July.
All during the same week.
Yeah, same week. So we keep with our regular session, which is the third Thursday of each month, but our CIC would be that Monday.
It'll be the 13th and the 16th.
13th would be the second.
No, it's the Thursday following the third Wednesday.
Oh, so
The first Wednesday and then
Monday.
it's just July, so it's a little bit early.
Right, yeah.
So what is it? 13th?
July would be the 13th and the 16th.
16th for regular session. Then August would
And then August would
be
be
17th and 20.
Correct. So just needing sort of shape that that's good for everyone
What's in
to.
our calendar?
To ensure, well, we'll make sure it's put in the calendars, but we didn't want to be so forward as to assume that everyone would agree with that before having the conversation. So just wanted to make sure everybody was on board with that schedule for the summer, and if so, staff will make sure calendar invites get sent out this week.
So everybody's in agreement?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. And now we'll move to 5F, the changes the scope of the prime design of the consultant services, and the CEO. You have that.
Yeah, so just as I guess a bit of background, so as we've been developing this design and we spoke last time, the designers were in about how, optioning it such that we could continue some momentum by having an option to phase the project in. Naturally, it makes sense to do that, but there's a bit more things that have to go on that were beyond the original scope of the prime design that was given about a year ago. And so try to lay them out in the report for everyone's benefit. That being said, in the overall scope of the project, it's, I'll say, not a great amount of change in the overall scope, although significant enough for consideration, but we feel like it's a good thing to do it this way so we can continue with the momentum and make sure that the project continues to move forward in the couple of phases, and through that just try to identify where that extra work is for folks so that they understood the value for money in the report. So if there's any questions, then I'd be happy to take.
Questions or comments? Councilor Von Victor?
Thank you, worship. Just trying to be optimistic here. Is this gonna have anything to do with the fact that we might be putting a second pad there if we get the agreement with the people at City of Vacation?
No, it's more to just try to do what we had talked about in terms of the phasing with the arena and then the rest of it because of the timing of opportunities for some of the funding that we're after. And that may come as well.
No, I was, that's,
But
I was trying to be
not
optimistic.
the precedent for why that was made.
Other comments? Councilor Whalen?
I just have a question, are they gonna come back in again and talk to us about the design? Because last time we had some notes. And then
Yep.
we haven't spoke to them again.
Yeah, so their next touch point in our design schedule is August. So when they have the design development phase complete, they'll come back in and give everybody a presentation on it. Because at that point, we'll need to have the approval to move into the construction tender phase, which don't want to necessarily do a ton of work unless we get that stamp of approval on design. So August is the date for that.
Councilor Carr?
Thank you, Worship. So the delay is in which we have applications in and we haven't heard back for funding, or we haven't put them in. I'm just curious why, so it sounds like it's related to hearing back of the funding. Is that we just haven't got them in? Have they been closed and we're waiting for them to open? Like why the change, or,
The change in.
well, we're going to a phase and it seems like it's saying I think you just said something about waiting for funding to come back. So is that a change from we expected them to be back already? If we haven't, did we not get them in by a deadline? I'm just,
No,
what's the trip up that's causing us to shift right?
just to continue to maintain momentum, we have all kinds of design applications in the, design applications for various pods are extremely extensive. So they're all in, we're all working on them. I think I've mentioned before, there's a lot of there's a lot more support for things that deal with community culture, like libraries and healthcare, than there is for rinks. Although there is gaining support for that kind of thing, especially in light of support with DND, but it's not quite as advanced in getting an approval as some of the other cultural aspects that the first phase may take on. So the risk here is when you run a project this big, if you hold out too long, you start to lose that momentum, or you miss things that could be done in phases, and that's why we decided to de-risk it a bit because we know we know that first phase has a pretty good likelihood of coming with some funding before the second phase does. Now, we could get lucky and get it all at once, but the risk is if we don't, then we sit and wait for the entirety of the project instead of building the first part in advance.
So, Warren Fuzzy? Okay, I'll need someone to adjourn. Councilor Whalen, seconder, Councilor Myers, questions, all in favor? Contrary, motion carried. We'll take a short break and we're going to closed. And happy birthday, Kelly.
That's it.